State and local governments have made trillions of dollars of promises to their employees that they will pay them pensions when those employees retire. And they've budgeted for these using methods that are basically flawed. In essence, what state and local governments do is they assume that for every dollar they set aside, that dollar is going to grow at an 8% compound annualized return. They assume that every dollar they set aside is going to double in 9 years. And that leads to budgeting procedures that greatly understate the costs of providing pensions to public sector employees. What this means is that there is really no state or local government around the U.S. that has run a balanced budget in a very long time. If state and local governments do not achieve the returns that they're targeting, taxpayers will be asked to contribute more to the state and local governments into pension systems in order to pay for the retirements of public sector employees. That's already happening now, and it's creating a lot of tension between the 10% of the U.S. population that works for a state or local government and the 90% that does not. So essentially we have a situation where 10% of the population is owed $4.5 trillion by another 90% of the population. That 10% of the population happens to be employees of state and local governments who provide essential services to us on a daily basis. It's actually hard to imagine a worse arrangement than borrowing sums of money that we are never going to be able to pay back from people who provide essential services to us every day, like teachers and policemen, firemen, public safety officials, and other public employees. Financial markets don't like uncertainty. And in fact, this is one of the reasons that I see the financial crisis that state and local governments in the U.S. will experience in the next decade or so as being very analogous to the crisis that is being experienced in Europe. Indeed, even if you think about Greece, which is not a large country by European standards, the uncertainty over how that Greek debt was going to get restructured threw financial markets into a lot of turmoil. And in the U.S., there's a great deal of uncertainty as to how all of these unfunded debts are going to get resolved, because laws in many states offer protections to these public employee pensions. And as a result, the states are not going to be able to simply default on these pensions. There's going to be a great deal of competition between municipal bondholders and the recipients of the pensions as to who is going to get paid first. State and local government pension funds are one of the main investors in private equity and venture capital. In fact, one could say that they are really the lifeblood of private equity and venture capital firms. They provide almost $400 billion of current investments and commitments to private equity, venture capital, and related investments. And a lot of these funds are now looking to be cash flow negative. The amount of assets that they have is decreasing as these pension funds come under greater and greater strains. And right now you have two things going on. On the one hand, they have the incentive to maintain these investments in somewhat riskier asset classes in order to target expected returns. But on the other hand, the amount of assets under management is going down. And I think that for the private equity and venture capital industries, it's going to be important to have a robust source of financing that's going to continue from public sector pension funds. And so the private equity and venture capital industries will need to be thinking about where the funding sources for their investments are going to be in 5 to 10 years, who are going to be the main limited partners for their investments in the next 5 to 10 years, because the traditional lifeblood of public sector pension funds may or may not still be there on a medium to long-term horizon.